Here's a clock that's a bit different. This is the Alien clock. It apparently appeared on an episode or two of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I'll admit I haven't watched that myself, but the clock is interesting regardless. Telling time on this clock is a bit unintuitive. The seconds are on the bottom here, and they're indicated in standard binary. See it counting up there? This is the least significant bit, and this is the most significant bit. It's going to roll over now. These lights here, in this vertical row of circular LEDs, indicate minutes. Each one of these green ones is 1 minute. This red LED is 5 minutes. And then each of these yellow LEDs indicates 10 minutes. You'll see that there's 5 of the yellow LEDs, 1 of the red ones, and 4 of the green ones. To go into time set mode, you press one of these 2 time set buttons. The middle one here sets the hours. You can see it stopped the seconds, zeroed them out. And now pressing it will cause the hours to increment. As with the minutes, the green LEDs indicate 1, and the red LEDs indicate 5. So right now it indicates 7 hours. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then it rolls back over to 1. It's a 12-hour only clock, and there's no AM/PM indication. Now the minutes work similarly. It's going to go over to 5 there. And if I increment it again, it'll light up the next yellow LED. And they move around depending on how many are lit. Let's see, this one went out and these 2 lit up. I guess that makes it a little bit more interesting. And then one more press and it will roll over to the next hour. Though it won't increment the hours because it's in time set mode. Once you're done setting the time, you press the top button and it starts counting. Now if you press the time set button again, it'll go into this kind of random sci-fi flashing lights display kind of thing you'd often see in especially a 60s or 70s sci-fi movie. Just kind of random lights blinking. I guess that's kind of cool if you want this thing as an effect, but you can't tell the time when it's in that mode, and it's also kind of annoying after a while. So just press this button again, and it goes back to the time display. The construction of this thing is fairly simple, and I don't even have to take it apart since you can see everything. There's a PIC right there. That's the only integrated circuit. And then there's all these drive transistors for the LEDs. The LEDs are multiplex. You can kind of see them flickering there when I shake it. It's because this chip doesn't have enough output pins to drive them all individually. Here's the label on the back. You can see it was made in the USA, which definitely isn't all that common these days for consumer electronics. But this is a small production item, as best I can tell. You can see there's no protection on the back of the circuit board. You could, touch that if you wanted to. So, thankfully this thing runs off of low voltage. It says 6 to 9 volts AC at 300 milliamps. This clock came with this adapter here, which is a 9 volt 1 amp power supply. I'm not sure if this was the one that originally shipped with the clock, but the clock ran quite hot with this power supply. Like, the chip was definitely heating up. I didn't like to see that, and I bought a 6 volt AC power supply to use with it instead. I just got this off eBay. It wasn't originally intended for this thing. You can see it's a 6 volt 350 milliamp power supply. The power supply runs cool and the clock runs cool, so I'd say that was a success. I did have to change out the plug though, but thankfully I had some spare plugs. I have the original box, but I don't have the instructions, so I had to figure out how to use the clock on my own. Although when I looked around later, I did find that the basic instructions for this clock are available online. Although unfortunately it seems like this clock is not available to be purchased anymore. It must have been discontinued a couple years ago. I'm happy to have found one that's in great shape though. It's quite a bit newer than most of the clocks in my collection, but it's also built like a much older clock in some ways, so I'd say it doesn't really look out of place. It has no internal time base. It relies on the timing from the AC line. Since the AC line is pretty rock solid, this clock should keep good time. Well, thanks for watching.